you, Presiding Officer, to ask the First Minister whether he will provide an update on what recent engagement the Scottish Government has had with the UK Government regarding the proposed development of the Rosebank oil and gas field in light of the Scottish Government's draft energy strategy and just transition plan. First Minister.
Licensing, exploration and production of the offshore oil and gas sector, of course, does remain reserved, regrettably, to the UK Government. The Scottish Government is clear that unlimited extraction of fossil fuels is not consistent with our climate obligations. It's not the solution to the energy price crisis, meeting our energy security needs, or indeed ensuring a just transition for our oil and gas workers as North Sea production inevitably declines. That's why we need a new plan for Scotland's energy system. The draft energy strategy and just transition plan seeks to do this. The Scottish Government is absolutely committed to a just transition and ensuring we take workers with us on that important journey to net zero. And we won't do to the North East what Thatcher did to mining and steeling communities right across Scotland.
Maggie Chapman. For that response. While recognising that licensing is reserved, the draft energy strategy and just transition plan sets out a position that, in order to support the fastest possible and most effective just transition, there should be a presumption against new exploration for oil and gas. Since the draft plan was published, the UN Secretary-General has said, "Our world needs climate action on all fronts, everything, everywhere, all at once, ceasing all licensing or funding of new oil and gas, stopping any expansion of existing oil and gas reserves, and shifting subsidies from fossil fuels to a just energy transition." Whether it's Rosebank today or other proposals to drill tomorrow, does the First Minister agree that a just transition on a livable planet depends on our firm commitment to a fossil fuel-free future? First Minister.
I do agree that we want, and we should all want, a fossil fuel-free future. And I do agree on that. Delivering on our climate obligations is, of course, an absolute priority. One of the first things I did, I think in my second official visit as First Minister, I went to the North East of Scotland and I spoke to those who are absolutely committed to that just transition. Particularly in the North East. I want the North East of Scotland to be the net zero capital, not just of Europe. I want it to be the net zero capital of the world. I believe it has the potential to do so. And so Maggie Chapman is absolutely right that first and foremost we have to make sure that any decisions that are taken by the UK Government must be taken in relation to our climate obligations. We want the UK Government to strengthen its climate compatibility checkpoint. We've asked for tougher, more robust climate tests. Secondly, we should ensure that they align with our energy security needs. And thirdly, and this is really central, and I believe Maggie Chapman will absolutely agree with this, we must take the workers of the North East with us. As I've already said, we will never do to the North East what Margaret Thatcher did to our mining and steel communities. We will not decimate sectors. We will not leave a single worker on the scrap heap, and that's why I will continue to invest in the just transition and accelerate that just transition as quickly as we possibly can.
Supplementary, Liam Kerr.
Very grateful, Presiding Officer. First Minister, new exploration and production in the North Sea would protect over 70,000 Scottish jobs. It would help our energy security and it would have a positive impact on emissions rather than offshoring our responsibilities. Therefore, will the First Minister re-examine the plans in his threadbare energy strategy to close the North Sea, or will he continue to be dictated to by a cabal of Green MSPs?
First Minister.
That, of course, is not what is in the draft strategy. But, of course, if we were to unleash and truly unlock the green economy, then we are talking about tens of thousands of jobs over the next couple of decades. And we want to take the workers of the North East in particular with us on that journey. But what a cheek that Liam Kerr stands there and talks about Scottish jobs when it comes to energy, when his party, when the party that he belongs to, the UK Government, have continued to block, have continued to delay, have continued to dither when it comes to the Scottish cluster and the Acorn project, which they have refused to give permission to and have relegated to track 2. So let me just say once again, the Tories can never be trusted when it comes to protecting Scottish jobs.
And supplementary, Fergus Ewing.
Presiding Officer, here in Scotland and the UK, we will need and continue to need and rely on gas for decades to come. the gas is imported in many cases from the USA, but their gas is produced with over four times the carbon emissions of Rosebank. Therefore, does the First Minister agree with me that sacrificing development of our own gas resource would not only decimate tens of thousands of highly skilled, well-paid jobs in a form of economic masochism advocated by the wine bar revolutionaries in the Green Party, but also make climate change worse, actually worse, not better?
Before the First Minister responds, I would remind all members of the requirement to treat each other with courtesy and respect. First Minister.
I've got a feeling, Deputy Presiding Officer, that's not the first time you've had to tell off your brother, one suspects. But let me actually, and some point of agreement with Fergus Ewing, say that nobody in the Scottish Government, certainly nobody that I've heard, certainly not in the Scottish Government, but also in the Green Party, have said that extraction has to stop tomorrow, because we understand that a just transition means that we have to take the workers of the North East with us. And of course the point is that it's a just transition. It has to be just, and that's why we believe that of course that we must accelerate that just transition with further investment in those non-fossil fuel alternatives. What I would say is that independent research based on industry projections found that production in the North Sea will be around about a third of 2019 levels by 2035. So we know it is a declining basin, hence why we have to make sure that we are accelerating that just transition. And meanwhile, as of 2019, only 16% of the oil and gas coming into Scotland, including imports from Norway and beyond, is consumed in Scotland. So reducing our energy consumption while ramping up our energy generation capabilities through renewables, through hydrogen, will mean that a net zero Scotland will not only be less reliant on importing oil and gas, but hopefully be a net exporter of cleaner and greener energy to the rest of the UK and beyond.
Question number